Imagine trying to run a soccer club and not being able to say victory or win.
So when they brought the team back in for halftime, he's like, we're changing kits. And they end up getting fined £10,000 for that. But Sir Alex said after the game, it's the best £10,000 he's ever spent, or the club has ever spent. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Nutmeg Theory. This is episode 2. Today we're going to be talking about club and player superstitions. Brazil is one of the biggest countries in the world with superstitions, football superstitions, that is. So we have the expert here, my co-host Mauricio. Let's get into it. Mauricio, let's hear some of the biggest and best football superstitions in Brazil.
What's happening? How's it going, everyone? Yes, Brazil and its superstitions. I mean, it's usually common for clubs not to wear the colors of their rivals, you know. In Europe, though, we've seen that rule bent a bit. Barcelona just recently launched a white kit, and the Premier League colors are pretty much all over the place lately. But while other clubs in the world, they kind of avoid their rivals' colors, Brazil has a set of things that are a little different the way we like to do them. So obviously, we do have the color issues. So if we talk about Corinthians, one of the biggest clubs in São Paulo, they don't allow green anywhere in the club because of their rivals Palmeiras. Probably everyone saw it in the Club World Cup, who of course wear green. So that creates many problems, especially with sponsors and sporting goods suppliers. I saw that firsthand working in sports marketing at Adidas in Brazil. Anytime we launched a boot pack that had green across its silos, Corinthians players simply wouldn't wear them. And, they'd stick to old boots that they had instead. So, the only green accepted in Corinthians is just the grass. And that's basically it. I would say that lately, not even the green money, because their debt has climbed to 2.6 billion reais. But, Corinthians won't allow green. São Paulo FC won't also avoid green. And you probably heard of Rogério, Ceni, one of the legendary goalkeepers, scored 131 goals, played for São Paulo for 25 years. He spent 25 years with the club, never wore green. And I think the only time you actually saw him wear green was with the national team. World Cup 2002, he played against Japan. I think that's the only picture that you'll see him wearing green. So, we have many of these. Palmeiras, on the other hand, will avoid black because of Corinthians. So the list goes on in Brazil. Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro, they will avoid each other's colors. Avaí and Figueirense, it's the same colors, as a matter of fact, from Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro, black and blue. But there are some other nuances here. I think that it starts to get a little different in Brazil. Further north, Santa Cruz, they're nicknamed the Cobra Coral. So they go after a snake with very specific colors. So it's red, white, and black. But the colors of the snake, the red and the black, don't touch. They have white in between them. So they have thin white stripes. And that has to be the same with the club. There is no red touching black in any part of the club's jerseys, communication again. And that's one piece, but it's not only about that nuance in the color. There are also the sponsors and the brands piece. So in the south, Grêmio and Internacional are both in the city of Porto Alegre, and they basically split the region and the state in half. The rivalry there is so intense that the sponsors usually have to sponsor both of the clubs at the same time, because sponsoring one of them could hurt the other one. So back in the 80s, both of them had Coca-Cola as their sponsor, but Grêmio, being light blue and rivals of Internacional, that is red, could not have Coca-Cola in red in their sponsorship. So Coca-Cola had to, specifically for Grêmio back in the 80s, they had to change their sponsorship, and that kind of became a thing later on, but back in the day that was unheard of. But not only is it's the brands adjusting, it's the sponsors, it's also the communication and the language. And this is what really brought this topic to me. So Botafogo da Paraíba refuses to use the number 13 because their rival is 13 da Paraíba, which literally means 13 in Portuguese. So they just announced that they had released 13 players. Their announcement was, we're releasing 12 plus 1 players, just to avoid saying 13. So maybe the most extreme case of the language changing is Sport Clube Bahia. So they were recently acquired by the City Group, and their communications team and everyone there has to avoid and cannot use the word Vitória, literally victory, win, because their rivals are called Vitória. So imagine trying to run a soccer club and not being able to say victory or win. So you have to say triumph, or you have to say other things, and every time there's a coach or a new player there, they forget about that. So I think it's very curious, and I haven't heard about that in any other country, but maybe, Jake, you might know of other stories that are similar like this. Do you have any stories to share, or do you know about superstitions?
So I just want to say my favorite one is the refusal to say the number 13. I feel like Botafogo is as superstitious as the city of New York, the buildings in the city of New York, because we both have experience. I do not have a floor 13 in my building.
Yeah, me neither. That is
yeah. It's like everyone's scared of the number 13. So I love that one. In terms of superstitions, for myself, throughout my playing career, I never had any. I just did things the same, but not for like a superstitious reason. Like, I always put on my right sock before my left, and then my right shoe before my left. I just remember always doing that just because I am right-footed and I am right-handed. But I definitely had different superstitions that I dealt with, like within clubs, especially when I played in Israel. Like, we used to have, it was a very religious thing where they would have a rabbi come before a big game to pray for the team. I'd never ever experienced that before in my life, and we were talking about how that happens in Brazil with, like, they bring in a pastor and you do the prayers before a game. I've seen the Brazil national team do it in the locker room, and it just shows you like how intertwined football and religion is. Football is a religion, but also you intertwine the two together. Definitely had runs where we would win a bunch of games and the coach would say we're wearing the same jersey because we won a bunch of games in a row, or we got good results, and we would not wear an alternate jersey. The one I can think of is Man United when Sir Alex Ferguson made the team switch jerseys at halftime. This is in 1996, and they were wearing a gray jersey and they didn't play well in the first half. This is against Southampton. And so when they brought the team back in for halftime, he's like, we're changing kits. And they end up getting fined £10,000 for that. But Sir Alex said after the game, it's the best £10,000 he's ever spent, or the club has ever spent. They end up losing the game anyway, but you will never see Man United wear gray kits anymore, at least when Sir Alex was the coach. It's also interesting to see.
That's tough for brands. That is very tough for brands because we think of, let's have a second jersey, let's have a third kit, let's have a different one. We think this is great. There's a big story behind it. It's a different color. But if the team loses, that is jinxed. That jersey won't be sold. Really, supporters start hating on it. It's just because of the new color. It's just because of the new design, whatever it is. So brands really have to think around that. Okay, who are we playing against? Is it at home? Do we have good chances to win this game? So we really can't have stuff like Ferguson just did, because that really is tough for the brands.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I know how hard it is to plan for all those events, marketing, the new kits. It's a lot of money, and sponsors put a lot of money towards those new kits. But Sir Alex was the boss. What's interesting about Man U is, if you know the history of Man U, the actual colors, and this has come up recently with the ownership, is like green and yellow. Yeah. But you think of Man U and you think in recent times, like, they're the Red Devils, they're known for red. But their actual original colors were green and yellow, and a lot of the fans want them to go back to those colors. And that's why you see every once in a while they have those alternate jerseys that they do bring out. So have all the superstitions you want. You bring in a new coach, you bring in new ownership, anything and everything will change.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And like speaking of new coaches, I think that makes sense as well, because I think that it really changes everything. And I'm going to say from the brand's perspective as well. We just talked about the jersey. We sometimes plan this. We, as in Adidas or all these brands, we plan these jerseys a long time in advance, sometimes a year in advance, and then there are all of these changes. So it's really a whole year of planning and negotiating with the club and adjusting all these details, and then you lose a game and that's over. Or a manager just decides, you know what, we shouldn't wear that. But I think that this is a good segue as well for the coaches piece, because we were talking about this with Nuno Espírito Santo being sacked recently. We're talking about how the dynamics really change when you have a different coach, or when you know that the coach might be leaving. So I really wanted to hear your perspective as a former player on the whole situation that happened with Nuno Espírito Santo, and where is your head at when you see that a coach might not last, or it's a completely different coach who has his own superstitions? How do you deal with that as a player?
It can go one of two ways. It depends on where you are in the team. So at first I'll say, as soon as I heard Santos say in a press conference that his relationship with the owner is not good anymore, you knew his days were numbered. Like, you were just waiting for them to lose a game and he was going to get sacked. That was the feeling in my heart. I think we all knew that. As a player, again, it can go one of two ways. If you love the coach and the coach is backing you, you're playing, you're very upset, and you're like, I need to prove myself again to whoever's coming in next. Now, if you're a player who's kind of out of the team, out of favor, and a new coach is coming in, you might be excited and like chomping at the bit that you have a chance to now prove yourself to somebody new, and you kind of get a fresh restart. So I'll give a little personal story of how this happened to me. I was playing in Israel, and I had interest from a team in the north of Israel called Afula. And Afula had just hired a new coach. He was an Israeli coach, but he spoke perfect English, and I had spent a lot of time in Israel playing for coaches that didn't speak any English. And I was learning the language, but I had a tough time. And this coach had reached out to me. He was like, I want to bring you into Afula. I see you as one of my main players, and I watched you all last year. I really liked how you play, and I think you're going to fit my system. So I was really excited. I ended up signing for the team, and as soon as I sign and I go through preseason, I have a great preseason. As soon as the season starts, I show up to training one day, and the management calls me into the office. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I got in trouble for some reason, and they had told me, similar to the Barcelona situation, that they were not able to register me for the season because of money issues.
Oh my God.
So you can imagine how I feel about that. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I was so fired up. I was on fire in preseason. I was ready to start the league. And the game is in 3 days, the first game, and I can't play. And so I talked to the coach, and the coach at the time, I could tell, was not getting along with the management because of this whole situation. And I wasn't the only one. Just like at Barcelona, there's multiple players that they have to decide who's getting registered, who's not. And what ended up happening was the coach was fighting with the management, and the coach is like, I'm going to do everything in my power to get you registered as soon as possible. Like, we understand, like, you may want to leave now because we don't know when the situation is going to be resolved, but I'm asking you, please do not leave the club. Because basically I was telling my agent, like, let's fight to get out of here, because what am I doing? I could only train. So I wait about a month. If I remember correctly, it was about a month, and I still could not play. I was still only training. And we had started the season poorly. Like, we didn't have all the new players that we had signed. And after a month, I come into the locker room one day, and finally I get the call from management. They've registered me. I can play. I was so happy. I was talking to the coach basically every week, and he was telling me, just stay with me, like, I'm fighting for you. And we built this relationship, even though I wasn't playing. We built a really good relationship, and I wanted to play for him, and I wanted to fight for him. And the day after I got my registration to play, the coach comes into the locker room the next day of training and announces to the team that he's been fired.
Oh, my God.
And I did not even get the chance to play one game for him, one real game. I played 3 preseason games, not one real game. And I was devastated. When I tell you, I was devastated. Like, I had come to this team specifically for this coach. I was going to play a lot. I was going to be one of the main players in the team. And all that happens. 2 days later, they hire a new coach. We ended up playing one game without a main coach. We had an interim. And after the game, they hire a new coach. And it was like the complete opposite relationship. It was me not getting along with the coach, really. He didn't really like me. He didn't really see me in his plans. And I kind of had to fight my way into the team, which I did. But it was just not the same. It wasn't the same system. It wasn't the same relationship. And so that was what I was kind of saying, was like the 2 different ways, which is I had a great relationship. I was excited. I was ready to fight for this coach, versus when the new coach came in, I was always going to fight. But like, there's just like that little bit extra that when you like really respect the person and you care about the person, you know they care about you, you want to like give them that little bit of extra. And I just didn't feel that with the new coach, and the team as a whole struggled. So yeah, that's kind of my experience with kind of turmoil within a club. And I think when I was younger, I kind of looked at all these professional clubs, MLS included, and I was like, oh my God, you know, you're like a young teenager, or you're like 10 years old, and you're like going to games, you're like, oh my God, this looks so professional. But then you actually get into the environment, and you're like, you see the turmoil that's happening on the inside, and you're like, nobody knows this on the outside. And it's just kind of crazy to see.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. And it's tough. And I can only imagine what it's like when when you feel like you've trusted that you've earned the coach's trust. You know that you're doing a lot. You're great dynamic. You know how you're going to fit in. And then all of a sudden that's scrapped and you have to start from scratch. And for some players, it could be an opportunity, especially if you're a bench player and you're not having many minutes. But I do know that once again, we got to start all over. And sometimes it just doesn't work, as you said, right? And I feel that the most successful managers are the ones that really can get the reserves and the bench players, and like have that core, let's say 18 kind of players, feeling happy and feel motivated and knowing that, you know, I trust you. You're going to add value here. You got a place. We got something in mind for you, and just, you know, keep pushing. And I think that that's very hard to have nowadays, especially with how competitive it is, and how many and how coaches probably are worried. This is something that happens a lot in Brazil. If you lose 3 games, you're sacked. So they really try to play conservatively. They're just going to either park the bus, or they don't want to change the team a lot. They're not going to try other players. They want to make sure that their core is there. Obviously, because of the number of games, they end up having to change the players up. But they don't have a lot of time to test it out. So it must be hard from a player's perspective on that end.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same in Israel. I played for so many coaches in a short amount of time, and they just recycle all of them. And it's crazy. And I would say, based on this whole thing, there's a lot of coaches out there who are very good tactically. You can study the game, you can play the game, you can do coaching courses, coaching license, and you can become very good tactically. But I would say the most important and probably most underrated value of a coach is the man management. How do you have the environment of the team, whether somebody's playing, not playing, in the team, out of the team, the environment of the team is all moving in one direction, all for the same goal, whether you're playing or not. That's the biggest thing. And my favorite story about that is hearing Patrice Evra talk about Alex Ferguson. and how he treated players differently. Not so much as in like respect-wise. He respected every player, but he knew that players reacted to things differently. And he tells a story about how he's playing in a game and he made a back pass to the goalkeeper, and Sir Alex absolutely ripped him and was like, "What are you doing? Go forward." And Patrice Evra is like, "I made the right decision. Like, I had pressure, so I passed it back to the keeper." And Patrice is like, during the first half, we didn't play well as a team, but I had a really good game, or had a really good first half. And when we went into halftime, Sir Alex Ferguson spent like 14 of the 15 minutes ripping me about how I'm not good enough, how I'm not playing enough. And like Patrice says, I was ready to fight him. Like, I was almost ready to fight Sir Alex. But he didn't say anything to Rooney. He didn't say anything to Ronaldo, who were playing poorly, in Patrice Evra's opinion. And second half, the team went out, played much better. Patrice Evra was like fired up because Sir Alex just ripped him. And after the game, Patrice Evra went to go speak to Sir Alex, and he said, why did you treat me like this at halftime? Like, I had a good game. And Sir Alex basically told him, like, I can speak to you like this because I know that how you're going to respond. I can't yell like that at Ronaldo because he won't respond well. And it's just like, that's like the small details. They're huge things, but like small details of like what is going on in the mind of Sir Alex Ferguson and like how he knows each of his players, how they work mentally, that gets the best out of everybody in the whole team. So that's what I would have to say about like being a tactical genius versus like being a man management. Because you can be a tactical genius and just be an analyst and not be the coach. So it's just a really important thing to me.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And, I think I heard a similar story with José Mourinho and what he did with Costinha as well. I think there's also a story in Brazil about Romário. I think, Romário basically gave Brazil in 1994 the World Cup. We usually say that he won it for us. And he had a very strong personality. And a coach, I don't recall which coach, but he came, talked to Romário's side, and he said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to have to be a little harsh on you right now, but it's not you, okay? I just have to talk to you like this so the other players are going to see, and wow, if he's talking to Romário like that, I better play and I better run." So it's all about the mental, using the players and knowing who's going to respond how, if they're going to succumb to it or if they're going to fear him and start working. So I agree, that's the brilliance, and we see that with the top coaches. And at times I think we're also going to see coaches that maybe struggle a bit and lose the locker room. And I don't know if you've had any experiences like that in which you're thinking, I don't think that this coach is going to last, and maybe if we don't win this game, it might be better for us because the coach is going to be sacked or whatever, and we have a new start. Have you ever experienced anything like that? Have you ever heard of any stories like that, or not really?
Absolutely. I mean, I experienced it in Israel. Like I said, I think I played for like 6 or 7 coaches in 3 seasons. I was playing in Hapoel Jerusalem, and I played for 3 coaches in 1 season. And when the pressure is on and you're walking into the locker room every day in training and like results are not going well, like it's just a shitty environment to be in. It's really bad. And you can tell the vibes of everyone are just so low, and the coach feels under pressure. You can feel it when the coach feels under pressure. And again, some of the guys were like, yes, like I want this coach to be fired. And some were like, no, we love him. The first coach that I played for at Hapoel Jerusalem, he was very loved, but just results were not going our way, and he ended up being let go. And then a second coach came in, which nobody liked, and the players were just waiting for him to leave. And the reason that the club brought him in was because he was just a hard ass, and he like didn't allow anything to go in training, in the games. He wanted to just bring us back to like being organized, working our asses off, and like gave no leeway. He was a really, really old man. He smoked cigarettes all day. He smelled like cigarettes all the time. And like one story that I have for him is we were at an away game and we took the bus, and he was an old guy, and he was walking down the steps of the bus and fell on one of the steps and fell out of the bus. And like they were worried that he needed to go to the hospital. But then he just sat up and lit up a cigarette and he was fine. Um, but those are like the personal stories I have. What I would say is you definitely have misery loves company. So when players are not happy with current management or current coach staff, you definitely have those players kind of like sticking together and like, oh, this coach sucks. Like we need a new coach. We need to get him fired. And like that, not we need to get him fired, but like we can't wait till he's gone. So you definitely see that in teams, especially when there's contracts, money, all on the line. So it makes sense because everyone's trying to do what's in their personal best interest. All right, so that's a wrap. This is episode 2. We'll be back with episode 3 shortly.
Peace.